Tom, thank you so much for sitting with us and speaking to us about everything land use and business.
So much fun to do this. Thank you, Danny. And your involvement with Master Plan and your perspective is really important. And thank you for bringing all these ideas and these projects out, because right now we're at a turning point in Dallas-Fort Worth, maybe United States as far as the economy goes. We are going to ratchet up a level that people hadn't been used to. And I got here in 1979 from the beaches of San Diego. 10 blocks from Disneyland is where I grew up after being born in Hawaii. And I came here for apartments. And I was very wet behind the ears, did not know, even though my mom and dad had been in real estate in Orange County selling homes, I had not been involved in that real estate industry. So I got here, test of fire very quickly, had to handle 3 properties that eventually got foreclosed on. But during that time, I'd met my wife. We've been married 45 years. And so I got my license. And it really just then was a pathway through the growth of Dallas and very organically. My wife is from Hong Kong. We met at the bank that she was working at, a bank in southern Dallas across from the newly renovated and wonderful Redbird Mall. So when we went to the Redbird Mall for lunch or stuff, where all of her friends worked in high school, and it was beautiful. It was brand new. It was just wonderful. So very sad to see it dip. Very, very glad the man that picked it up, who was not in real estate, he was an advertising guy. So, it spent about $8 million, and it's the best $8 million he ever spent. Look at it now. Frank Mihalopoulos, my dear friend, and I call them the terrible twins, Terrence Maiden and his brother. They are so good. They just are on it like a chicken on a bug, and they turned that mall with Frank and this gentleman into something that is just outstanding. More labor, more jobs than retail, which is about where every mall should be these days. So that was very wonderful meeting her for the first time at that bank, and then that was it. So I didn't leave, even though 1980 was the worst summer that we've ever had. It's still used. And what was bad? Well, 1980. I said, well, I didn't notice the heat, I guess.
I had
a wonderful woman, and so I've got 2 kids, 2 grandkids over this time, and she puts up with me in this business, which is a crazy business. So
it has its ups and downs and ebbs and flows for sure.
Yes.
So it's obvious you are very passionate about land use.
Yes.
And you know a bit about my background. So my degree is in city planning.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that I chose city planning, my degree is actually in urban studies.
Right.
So it's interdisciplinary.
Right.
I loved learning about how cities impact people.
Right.
Not, the built environment affects everything. Get what you have access to, what, and what drew you to land use? I mean, you said you came here for apartments.
Came here to manage apartments.
Okay.
They lost out, went back to California. Again, I'd met my wife, and I had to get my license here.
All right.
Had to get my license. So I bartended at a place called Piaf's on Travis and Knox. Well, what is that property turning into now? Talk about Michael Dell, Steve Lieberman of the retail. I mean, this retail connection, these guys that I've known forever, and Michael's married to Steve Lieberman's sister. And so that's how I know that. And so they've torn down the place I was bartending in, and they're building a wonderful project there. So those guys are tore down the place I was bartending while I was working on my 1 year on my license. Took me 1 year through school and everything I had to do. Well, the 5 guys that had invested in that restaurant, I sold millions of dollars of real estate after that. One was Joe Goins. One was J.C. Sturkwell. You can see J.C. over at the Cafe Pacific about 4:00 most afternoons. We had Bobby Hefner. We had David Dunning. We had this group of people that believed in Dale Harris, the restaurant owner, and so they invested in Dale.
Mhm.
Well, as I'm shuffling back and forth and serving them drinks, I'm going, I'm working on my real estate license.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, hurry up. Hurry up. Get us some good deals. And I ended up selling JC 4 sites for 4 office buildings. David Dunning, many things. Joe Goins, he was banking, so I brought him many borrowers for Grand Bank and others that he had. And Bobby Hefner, also an investor in things. So it was a great group to be introduced to on the inside. They all live Park Cities or Preston Hollow.
Right.
And so they gave me a lot of insight as to what's going on.
Right.
And so I really was the fly on the wall. We turned a corner after the debacle of land investments around DFW Airport from the early 70s until it was created in 75. And then a lot of those partnerships who all were working to be the property. Well, they weren't, so they had to drop.
Yeah.
It's just the normal cycle kind of boom and bust on these things. But 79 came, and it was just a sprint to the bottom, actually. And you could get 125% loans. 100's not enough. You're going to put some utilities in there, right? In roads, yeah. Well, maybe you need 125%. The banks and the savings loans were handing each other money that they pretty much knew was never going to get paid back.
I've heard about that. Yes.
It was very horrible. You were paying your mortgage. You were doing what you're supposed to do. But the guy next to you, well, he didn't. And his was overvalued by 3 times because he had a very crafty appraiser. Yeah, some of them went to prison. Ouch. Gosh. And there's not that many.
Right.
But there were a lot of people that benefited.
You bring up an interesting point. In business, it can be easy to get swept up in, the money and the
They're
glam
giving it to you.
part. And how do you hold on to your values when you're in an environment that may not support that?
Yeah. Well, the government is berated all the time for everything they're trying to do. This law, that law, and trying to restrict growth. Here we have a president that's telling the best Fed chair we've ever had, Jerome Powell, lower interest rates, do this. Well, if that was the case, nobody would believe anything. Hard to believe some things now, but nobody would believe anything. And that is all we have for people around the world to put their money into the largest piggy bank there ever was, which is the United States. There is no investing in Eastern Europe. There is no investing in Southeast Asia. There's no investing in the Middle East. We are the recipients now of all of the money in the world because they do not feel safe in many other places. Well, we start to lose their trust because you say something and it's patently false. Then does anybody still want to invest with us? So we have run the risk right now of those kinds of things. But that's what we cleaned up. 92, we had the Dodd-Frank law, came in, said, no, you're going to have 25% minimum real equity in a deal. I mean, these deals were getting 125% loans. The equity wasn't even a word we used. And so these are the things that set everybody into a pathway. Phil Graham, before he left the Senate, middle of the night, passes the derivatives law. How does that affect us? Crash within 3 years from 7 to 11 was a mess. And it was and it wasn't us, it wasn't the commercial guys, it was the residential, because we had to have 25% real cash in a deal. We could not get away with these things. But the derivatives were so detrimental to the housing industry that we had to, again, have auctions. Everybody, Blackstone, all these groups that put hundreds of thousands of residential units together to lease. We thought they were buying them, fixing them up, and they were going to put them back out in the market.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. Here's a phenomenon. They're leasing them. What? Yeah, every last one of them. Wow, that took a lot of available to purchase units off the market.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very detrimental to our housing market. One of the first things that hit us. But up until then, we had 15 years of really moderate, reasonable growth. Everybody was making money. It was really a nice ride up to this mess in 2007. So, we do need guidelines, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because we will get excited. We will get exuberant. We will do things we shouldn't be doing because a lot of people, the greed factor, that's all that matters to them.
Mm.
Serving people kind of isn't anything that has anything to do with their vocabulary. Okay?
Right.
There's no serving people. It's serving me and making me as much money as I can. And of course, they're investors. Of course, they got to do that. But there is so much money and they're still serving people and there's still a way to get it all done within reasonable guidelines. And we're seeing that now.
Now tell me, Tom, have you ever had a transaction? I'm sure you have. You've been working in the DFW market for so long, and listening to you talk, it's obvious you've seen it change over time.
Yeah.
What experience have you had where you worked on a transaction
Yes.
that personally also filled your cup? It gave you joy.
Oh, the best one.
Tell me.
Here's the best one. So I'm working in downtown Dallas, marched up. I did the Borden Milk Company. We were serving milk in downtown Dallas in 1979 as beautiful Woodall Rogers is being built. This was at the corner of Woodall or Service Road and Pearl Street.
Mm-hmm.
So believe it or not, trucking milk out of downtown Dallas. Well, half a block away, still selling Cadillacs. Lone Star Cadillac was there. And I said, what are you doing here when I went to the Borden people? And they said, we're not talking to anybody else but you and a gentleman over here from Hank Dickerson. He said, now you don't have to split these fees, but we are so tired of people calling us up and asking us what we're doing here in downtown Dallas, trucking milk out of here. Don't they like our milk? And I said, no, sir, they love your milk. Everybody loves Elsie. Come on. So I said, well, thank you. So I brought a gentleman named Sid Steiner. Sid was and he brought Tishman in from New York. And we put that under contract for $128 a square foot, one of the largest transactions ever been done in downtown Dallas. And we were a year down the road on what was a 1 million square foot building project when John Stewart from the Central Business District Group called me and said, Tom, we want that site. You got it under contract. And I said, John, my client has it under contract. He goes, I know, but we want that for the Symphony Hall. We're extending the museum all the way. I mean, this is going to be our arts district.
Yeah.
I said, my goodness, John, wow. I said, well, let me talk to the buyer. I said, let me see what he says. And so Sid, what do we do? They want your site. He goes, didn't you tell me you can go get Lone Star Cadillac? It's exactly 4 acres like this site. And I said, it's a possibility. Don't put me in a box here. And he goes, well, you get over there and you find out if Mr. DeSanders will sell the property. And if he will, we'll put that under contract. We'll hand this off to the city to close for the Symphony Hall. And I said, well, sounds like a plan. I went over and sat down with Mr. Bill DeSanders in his office. And Bill said, well, I heard you've been in the neighborhood looking around at some things. And I said, whoa, this is a very small neighborhood. And he said, what are they paying over there? And I said, oh, Mr. DeSanders, I've been told, never disclose the price of a contract to anybody. He goes, well, you have a nice day and I'll talk to you later. And I went, no, whoa. I'm sure they'll be okay with it. It's $128 a square foot. And he goes, I want 130. And I said, well, I can't authorize that.
Right.
I'm just an agent at that time. I wasn't even a broker. And I said, let me go back and talk this out and see what's happening. And so I told Sid, Sid, he'll take $130 a square foot. And he goes, well, get the contract signed. He said, there's no, Tom, this is nothing. This is minuscule difference. And he said, and we can give that to the city to go take for the Symphony Hall. So we'll have 1 million square foot sitting next to Santo Guadalupe and then the Symphony Hall right there. He said, this is beautiful. Yeah. So got a contract with Mr. DeSanders, put it in the title company. We handed our contract off to the city of Dallas. Obviously, we know that the Meyerson Symphony Hall is sitting there today, so that one worked. And Mr. DeSanders, 30 days before our closing, walked a few paces down from his home in Highland Park, sat on the grass, and passed away.
Goodness.
Yeah. So we really were suspect. I worked with a gentleman by the name of Ross J. Love and Associates. Ross was the lineman for Dandy Don Meredith at SMU.
Uh-huh.
Bled blue and red pony panic, and and just a jock all the way. And so Ross goes, "Well, Tommy, we got to go over and sit in the conference room, talk to Mrs. DeSanders." And I went, "Okay, so this is probably dead, right?" And he goes, "Well, he's dead." And I went, "Yeah, okay." So we get in the conference room, we sit down. Lee DeSanders, her son, was sitting there, and Lee drove a 928 Porsche. So if you could see a guy in the Cadillac business driving a Porsche, his dad would yell at him, tell him to park it behind a building and stuff. So we sat down with Ms. DeSanders, and she looked at us, looked at Ross, and said, "Ross, when is this closing?" And he said, "Well, it's scheduled to close in 30 days. She goes, "Okay, well, you get it closed." Then she looked at me, pointed at me, and said, "Because you're the reason all this has happened, you better go find us a site to move to."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay." And she folded out a big paper map, and there was a big 3-inch black line running down Northwest Highway. She goes, "GM gave me this. They said, don't go north of Northwest Highway." And I went, "Okay. Did somebody make somebody mad?" And she said, "Yes. My husband, when Roger Meyer was trying to put his point in, didn't really give Roger a very easy time of doing it."
Right.
And we went, "Oh, no. Okay. So that's what this is."
Yeah.
Well, I did find him a spot. It was at Jupiter, Northwest Highway. Moved him over to there. They sold the dealership within 2 years after that. She really didn't like the car business. Lee didn't like the car business, except his Porsche. And so that got that downtown corner anchored.
Mm-hmm.
No, Sid did not build his 1 million square feet on the Cadillac dealership. He lost it. MetLife was the lender, and the 80s crash, boom, bang, ate that one. Craig Hall, that was 130 a square foot. Craig Hall paid $50 a square foot for the site, much more reasonable number. And he was given 1 million square feet of plans. And I asked him, "Craig, do you use any of those?" He goes, "Oh my God, it was 1 million square feet. I wasn't going to build 1 million square feet. No, I didn't use them." I mean, there's no telling how much 1 million square feet of plans cost back then.
Right.
But so he didn't use it. He didn't do anything with it. He built this beautiful Arts Plaza. He has one of the most compassionate restaurants that ever existed in that he gives this restaurant gives all kinds of people chances to work and get going, and it really is a wonderful thing. Craig Hall is by far one of our real estate giants in way more ways than just development, and way more ways than anything to do with our business. He is an altruistic, compassionate individual that helps so many people that nobody knows about, and is really one of the great guys. He is one of the great guys.
So as we're talking, and I've lived in Dallas since 2014, and I came to work for the city of Dallas as a planner. And that's where I met.
What year?
Dallas, 2014.
Okay, I'm trying to think. Well, some of the guys that I loved, and they still were down there by then. They're long gone now, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately. Yeah.
Someone came, and I remember one time someone mentioning like, "Oh, this is like Trammell Crow's development, right?" And I was like, "I don't know who that is." And now I do, obviously, because I've worked in the land use business now up here for 10 years or over 10 years. But as we're talking and you're mentioning these names, and you've mentioned all these people who've helped build the Dallas skyline, I am curious, who's helped build you? Every person that's come in that I've interviewed, and I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this. You are my 10th interview.
Oh,
you are my 10th episode. We've hit double digits.
I hope I don't screw it up.
No, you have. No, I'm enjoying this conversation. It's filling my cup.
That's good.
But I would love to know who you credit as a mentor and helped you level up. And I know there's a person.
Well, Herb Weitzman would be one of the people.
Mm-hmm.
The Joe Bowers and Associates, Joe B, as we call him. These are people that had a philosophy of life first, and
Mm-hmm.
then they introduced business into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes all of the great people in our real estate industry. Mack Pogue from Lincoln, who just passed away. Ross, the gentleman I worked for back in the 80s.
Yeah.
We were at Preston Trails Golf Course. He was a member of Benttree, but somebody invited us over to next door to Preston Trails. Well, Mack is teeing off in front of us with Mickey Mantle, the great baseball player.
Right.
I mean, and Mickey hits it 10 million miles, kind of more of a baseball swing, but who cares, right? Where'd it go? So, getting to know Mack's philosophy of quality first, people first, real estate third. I mean, he put so many thoughtful projects together, and they screamed quality, and everybody would love to emulate somebody like him. Herb Weitzman, who the majority of people don't know.
I actually know.
Well,
I know of him. I have not yet to meet him.
Of him.
Yes.
Yes. I had to sit there while I worked for him and listen to people talk about how, maybe he wasn't as honest as he was supposed to be, and I would ask him, well, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, we had a deal and we dropped the deal, and then Herb came in, picked it up, and closed it. And I said, did you hear yourself, what you just said? Because that doesn't sound like somebody that's trying to take advantage of somebody. How was that not fair?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys were the losers. You couldn't close.
Right.
So what are you saying here? So people that can't close, somebody else closes, that person took advantage of them? Boy, you better screw your head on a little better with the way you're thinking about things, because that isn't true at all. I know the man from extreme charitable events that nobody knows about.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme compassion with lots of different situations. I will tell you that his company was one of the first real estate companies to hire any minorities. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're still prejudiced when I get here in Dallas in 1979.
I have seen some of the older documents. Yeah.
There it is. There it is. So he had one of the greatest secretaries, assistants that ever was, Deborah Birdsong. Deborah's last name is very synonymous with Otis Birdsong, the famous basketball player from the University of Houston. Mm-hmm. And he just was a standout. And Deborah worked for Herb, helping him wrangle things. I had just come into the office in 1992. And she said, Tom, have you ever known this gentleman? And I said, no, I don't. She goes, well, he owns some land in Grand Prairie, and he needs some help. And I said, well, Deborah, what do you think? He goes, well, he's been a contributor in the University of Houston, but he has switched to another school, Hillsdale College, and he's got this land and he needs some help. And I said, well, Deborah, thank you. I'd love to meet with him, Jack and his wife, and I have represented that property for 37 years. Now you say, well, Tom, that's not very good real estate if you took 37 years to get things done. Well, let me explain. And Jack and his wife have been dead for a number of years. They had a life state remainder with Hillsdale. The property wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. Very craggy, a lot of floodplain. On the hard corner of Robinson Road, 920. Well, what's north of that? Well, almost a mini Six Flags right now. You've got the largest water park in Texas. You have a Kia. You have 1 million square feet across from a Kia selling furniture and other things. You have Bass Pro shops. You have the Andretti racing car people. Topgolf is under construction. You have 9 sit-down restaurants. You have so many other entertainment-related things going on through here. Mm-hmm. It has just boomed. It has just literally boomed through there. And so my friend Mike Geisler with Venture Commercial has had a lot to do with why that happened. And that could have been all industrial. I will give the city of Grand Prairie, not that I do not like industrial, but these taxes and the money generated from the restaurants and the retail is going to exceed industrial types of rents. And that was going to all be industrial down there if a lot of the people had their way. They were hitting at that property and hitting at that property, and the city said, nope, not yet. 161's coming, and this is all going to be good. Eventually, that will be one of the huge intersections in the Metroplex, because 161 will go across a lake, and it will go meet in the southern county line, and it will meet up with what's coming through Rowlett and all of that. So that was a very strategic intersection. So, Deborah, just one conversation, 37 years of transactions. And I've gotten easement money. I've gotten sales, apartments being built on it right now, selling the last piece for retail on the hard corner. And these relationships, the people you have relationships with, are where all your business comes from.
Right.
I am not lucky. There are no coincidences in life to me. I don't believe in these. I believe I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be at every second of the clock. It's for me to know why I'm where I am, what I'm supposed to be doing there, and to quiet my mind a little bit, get rid of the monkey mind in the front, and let the little subtle voices there say, go left, go right, talk to that person. And they do. And, no, I don't have voices going in my head all the time, but yeah, I do. So this is where I've derived everything that has come from my business, by the conversation, the engagement with a human being that needed my help, that we thought it was for one thing, and then all of a sudden it becomes really pointedly something else. So I really appreciate that part of my brain working. And I got paid $1,700 on a transaction one time. I had helped some people that I had just closed something for them. It was actually part of that Lone Star Cadillac deal, and I'd gotten $100,000. So they said, hey, would you do us something? And I said, sure. Took me 5 times driving inside and out of Tyler to get it closed for them. And I got a whopping $1,700, but that wasn't it. It was that relationship that I had with them. Well, that family sold the land for the mall in Park and Preston, to the one that hopefully is going to be redone now. And Stonebriar was already there. They sold this land to the group that built the mall, and it should have never been built. They also did all of Twin Creek and Allen. They were part of the Dowtile family, and then sold Dowtile, so used all that money to do other things. But these relationships and how we do work for people is how we extend ourselves, and we continue through that to doing other things, as long as you're paying attention, as long as you're helping people and not thinking, I got to make $100,000. I got to make $1 million. Money is an illusion. It is an absolute illusion. It's not real. And if you follow that, you're going to be sorely disappointed your entire life. Now, helping people, coming to solutions for people that need something that maybe nobody else figured out for them, those are the kind of things that you all of a sudden get a check, you go, whoa, where'd that come from? And that has always been, yes, there were times where I was sweating whether I was going to get a check. Sure. Heck yeah. Too many times after the 80s. Whew. But not in reality, not really. It was really about helping people and getting things done, because I can't go out in the middle of a green field and do something. I need a little bit more difficulty level and puzzle level, and I'm a detective finding people because they've got LLCs and INCs and everything else, and they try to not be obvious, but I'm always their best friend. So yeah, I always find them. And so this is just a process that's, to me, it's a lot of fun. I'm in everybody's business, doing 6 million square feet for Herb over communities like South Lake, where we did the Central Market Center, Allen, where we did all the retail along McDermott and Central, and Plano, into all the things for the Haggard family, which was what what a wonderful group still. Boy, we still have Owen and Rutledge Haggard, the senior members of the family still. And when I went to them in 1992, I said, Tom Thumb wants to be on this southeast corner of Parker and the Tollway. And they said, oh, Tom, we hate paying capital gains tax. And I said, hold that thought. So I went back to Herb and I said, Herb, they don't want to sell it because they don't want to pay capital gains. He goes, Tom, I can sound almost like him. Tom, Kroger wants me on the other corner. So what we're going to do is, do Tom Thumb on this corner. Then we sell that. We're going to take that money and trade it into the other corner for Kroger. And he goes, that way we're going to push that tax down the road. He says, they won't pay capital gains tax until they realize everything. Well, we just stopped. Herb and their group just stopped on that property a couple years ago. That's it. Otherwise, it has been 92 to now that they have continued to help them kick that can down the road with the capital gains tax.
There is a book in you. Have you written the book? I have to know.
I have not written a book. I cannot write a book until I write one book first.
Okay.
It is my second mother. She is the head and the vested person in the World Beat Center in San Diego.
Okay.
She is a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian in the 72, 74 time period, but met somebody that liked steaks and oops, you know how that goes. So off that. But I retained many, many helpful things from her cooking, her process, everything that goes on. Well, she has a life that if you could put a book together for her would be so monumental. I mean, I don't even know how many people she has helped. I mean, it's millions. The World Beat Center is a old water tank in San Diego in Balboa Park, right near the San Diego Zoo. And she turned that into a cultural center where people can learn about all kinds of art, African art. They have gardens there. They bring kids in for very nice programs. And again, continually giving back. She has also become the reggae queen of reggae queens. She goes now by Makeda Makosa, and she puts on reggae concerts. Bob Marley was a dear friend of hers. I got to meet Bob Marley because he was still living when I worked at the restaurant. Taj Mahal came in, brought his family for a restaurant. We had Dick Van Dyke, Gloria Swanson. That's why I tell you, cut out sugar. She wrote Sugar Blues. Scary book about how her husband died from diabetes. Diane Cannon, the actress, and her family came down to eat. The one real funny one is George Harrison from the Beatles came in to eat.
What?
And we had these little areas where you sat down on a little tatami pillows and a little small low table, and they had little enclosures. You look up and there's clouds painted on the sky and plants all around the top of the rooms. And he was sitting in one of those, and I was his waiter, and I came in and he was lighting a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
European, back when it was, and he's lighting a cigarette. Well, that is not going to happen in our restaurant. So I said, oh, Mr. Harrison, please put that out. The owner, she's wonderful, but if she smells this, she's going to be very, very upset. So let's put that out. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, mate. So sorry, mate. He puts it out in one of the plates on the table. And so I go back with their order, take it to the kitchen, and I'm putting everything in and then bringing back some drinks. And I see our owner Marianne beelining, her name back then was Marianne. She was beelining around for my area, and I could only kind of imagine she got a little bit of a whiff there. So as I'm walking in the room with some drinks, trying to calm things down because she could be a little fiery. She was about 5'3", but she looked 6'4" when she was angry. And so she was telling Mr. Harrison, I know you're a Beatle, but you can leave if you want to smoke. You can't smoke in my restaurant. Okay. So he said, oh, no, I'm not going to smoke anymore. So he had lit another one up when I was gone.
Of course he did.
That's what she smelled. And so she saw two butts in there. And when she walked out, I said, I got to put out the first one,
Okay.
Yeah.
You are correct. That is one that sounds amazingly interesting, just as much as your knowledge about the Dallas area.
Thank
you. Tom, can you speak to, so you own your own business right now, right?
Since 2003.
Yes. So you've been around for a while.
A little bit. Yeah.
And so again, with the real estate market going with its ebbs and flows, and we can speak to we know the milestones, right? You mentioned 2007, and I know COVID hit the real estate market as well.
Yep.
How did you navigate those changes?
Well, the 80s was by far the worst. There is nothing, and unfortunately, a lot of people they didn't go through it.
Right.
They don't understand it. Their reference is 7 to 11. Okay, 2007 to 2011, when we came out of the terrible dredge that the housing industry had pulled us down with.
Right.
So, we had 15 years, 92 to 2007. Little blip at 2000 when the dot-coms, there was a little, they receded. Some failures there that kind of related in some ways to real estate, because some of that was tenants in that way. But really, through each one of those, there was always something to do. That's a great thing about real estate. When the real bad 80s hit, I had to help people clean things up. I had doctors that had mortgages on things they should have never had. 15 of them had a condo up in Vail. What are you doing? Does anybody in Iowa use this? No. Yeah. Does anybody in Maine who's a part of this? No. I said, well, how many of you want to own it? 2. I said, well, I found a loan in 86 for them. There was no money, but this was in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Not as bad as Texas, pretty bad. And we got it refinanced for them. The other people had to deed their things back. So I did anything, clean up. I worked for a dentist. Okay. Now this dentist had some debt on a building I needed to clean up for him. And so I found a savings in Laredo, Texas, that did that for him.
Now, I lived in Laredo for 12 years.
Well, it's a dynamic, that market is dynamic. It's huge. And the maquiladoras and all the things that are going on now are going to zing up even more. I think we're headed for another little valley boom down there, actually, with more industrial, more places to create, and more jobs for everybody. So that, I think, is very much coming. And they were very kind, and they did this deal for them, cleaned up that. The doctor also had some other things he needed to get rid of. His office building needed to be refinanced in Richardson. Got that done. So, all of these types of things were little bits to do while we were waiting for money to come back, for trust to come back. Trust was a big, big thing, as we had tanked a lot of people, and that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Moabs, the minority-owned women business. I worked for WQ Real Estate in Houston for her and myself and Joe Bowers, and Joe B, as I call him. We cleaned up a bunch of stuff through their company. And then I left to go work for Herb Weitzman. And then we had, I wasn't here for 2007 in Herb's company because I left in 2003. Mm-hmm. But that was one that for us in commercial, because we'd had the Dodd-Frank, keep making sure you had 25% real assets, real equity in a project. It wasn't us. It was all residential. The commercial was not great because, this whole market is just churning. But it wasn't our commercial deals that tanked that 2.7 market. We couldn't do what we were doing before, thank God. So I got through that by continuing to work with the same people, reposition their properties, and get ready for when it got better. If they were going to sell, then we liquidated whatever they had. There were still many commercial activities taking place in that time period. It wasn't the devastation of the 80s. And so you just, again, you go back to the same people you worked with. You ask them what you can do to help them. You see where they are, and you just continue to put their interest first, so
Mhm.
you can see where they need to be, and hopefully you get things done for them. I'm working with the children now. Many of the people I worked with back then who have passed on, and now I have to help them, and through generations can maintain their properties, and it's been wonderful. It's been really valuable because their families were really great people.
Yeah, that's why it's so important, we don't burn our bridges or yes, I know it's
No, you're building bridges, always
yes.
building,
Yes.
always building. In the worst of times, you're building. Yeah.
So when did you know in 2003, like, okay, it's time. I'm taking that leap of faith. I'm betting on myself. Like, okay, so I'm sorry, I answered that. When? How did you know?
Well, this is the easy one.
Okay.
Okay. My friend Mike Geisler and my friend Ken Reimer and my friend Clay Moat were off starting Venture Commercial.
Okay.
They asked me, Tom, come with us. I said, oh, here I've been working for Herb in this big company, and I don't know if I want to go with another company or whatever. I said, just let me think about it. Well, Steve Lieberman was leaving, and he was taking his group of people, and he was going to start the Retail Connection. So it's going to get a little lonely. I love Herb.
Yeah.
Herb told me kind of 2 years before this, Tom, I'm not buying anything. So I supplied the land
Okay.
for the shopping centers.
Right.
I gave them the sites for I don't know how many. So the one in South Lake, the Central Market Center, is 135 billion now. So that one, I loved doing that deal. But he said, I'm not paying these prices. I'm not going to put myself out there on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be first getting to a property and go, Herb, let's do this.
Yeah.
Tom, what's the number? I said, no, not doing that number. So I learned very quickly when to say no because of Herb, and when to say, don't just keep running into something and hit your head on the wall. Yeah. Be smart. He did that because the late 80s was horrible for him. Jerry Grubstein, who bailed out Zales a couple of times and helped Herb get out of his issues. And Herb was not one of the kings of jacking up prices or putting things in bad loans or any of that. I mean, everything that he had was so clean, but it was still not clean enough to bypass the mess of the 80s. Okay. That's how bad it was in the 80s. Somebody who hadn't gone out and got fake appraisals, and there were plenty of them. Yeah. The appraisers went to prison. So he didn't do that stuff, but still he had to be helped to get out of that stuff in the late 80s. 87 is when he left the Miller Company, who is the retail personified in our area. Okay. From the 20s on. But yeah, so Herb started his own in 87. I got there 5 years later in 92. Mike Geisler asked me to come over there and go to work. But that whole time period was just remarkable how it all built up and got in position. We had an office in Fort Worth. I went there to handle that office for several years. But in 2003, he said, I'm not gonna challenge who's out there overspending on things right now. I'm gonna pull back and watch. And I know it was the sensitivities of that late 80s time period, but it also is he's just a genius. He's just a genius, and he just knows so much of what works and how people respond, and he's watches everything. He would take his daughters out driving on the weekends. They thought they were out having ice cream and having a good time. Herb's driving the grid. He's going north, south, east, west. He's looking at every center. He's checking new tenants. He's looking at this. He's looking at that. They figured it out eventually. It's does. Oh, Dad, okay, we'll go with you. Yes. Michelle and Esther are just two of the greatest kids. And then Michelle and her husband, Michael, are pretty much running the Weitzman Group now with Herb, still, always there. I think he still runs about 3 miles a day. And so, yeah, so that time period was good for me. Now, what I shouldn't have done was buy Coldwell Banker commercial for Dallas. Okay. Myself, I go to work for a couple of people. One right now has an extremely large development platform. So I was tasked with bringing agents, putting the office together, getting everything from the first VIOP phone line and in Addison in the quadrangle. I mean, not in the quadrangle, right there at LBJ and Tollway and Beltline. But it just kind of felt wrong for some reason because this one person, I didn't trust very well. I was in their offices in South Lake when 9/11 occurred, and it was terrible. That was very telling. But what we did, we almost had this office all set up, and I brought my second mother, Ruth Bramley, which was Herb's sister-in-law. Jeannie, her sister, had married Herb, and Herb had gone through 11 torturous years with her having cancer. He did everything that a human being could possibly do to support his wife, to help her in every possible way, and it was just too bad. It took her, and she was so wonderful. She was a psychologist and very intelligent human being. And her sister, Ruth Bramley, is the most wonderful human being. She did so many things for me in the 13 almost years that I worked for Herb. And so it was just one of those things that, I said, it's just time for me to go. I'm going to go to this Coldwell Banker thing. Would you come with me? She had just left Herb and was not the office manager at that point. And I said to Ruthie, come with me. Okay, these guys, I've got it worked out. They're going to pay you this much per month. He goes, oh, honey, you're kidding me. And I said, no, they're going to pay you that because you're who you are. Okay. So she agreed. I helped her get signed up with them. We get to open the doors on the office. And the other partner, who doesn't have a Brinks truck, said, I'm going to pay myself back with the Sendent loan. Sendent is the parent company of Coldwell Banker, not CBRE. Two different animals. CBRE is billions and massive. Coldwell Banker Commercial is the other side of the Coldwell Banker residential coin. And do you see many Coldwell Banker commercial ads out? No, never see them. We were supposed to get preferential treatment if Sendent had a piece of real estate because they owned Avis, they owned Hertz, they owned a bunch of, they were downsizing or they were combining two of those guys and they had a redundancy with a warehouse. They gave it to somebody outside of us for a listing. So my partner in that deal, after I left the people that were not being nice, I told Ruthie, do not leave this place. I got to go, but you stay here and you take what they're paying you now every month until they say they can't pay it anymore and that they've said goodbye to you. Okay. That was 18 months after I left.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's Ruth Bramley. And so she got that for 18 months. I went with Charlie Kelly, an appraiser. Charlie needed me as a broker to, kind of be the master. So I took most of the brokers with me. I left the office. There were about 4 left and went over and moved into this other office. I couldn't pay her what they were paying her. So I said, Ruth, take their money. And so while we were there, they did this thing where they gave this warehouse to somebody else. And I said, Charlie, look, I can't do this. I'm going to leave. If you want to pay me something for my half of this, great. He did. He was so kind. And he went on 8 or 9 years with it after that. So it benefited him as an appraiser more than me. Ruthie collected that money for 18 more months. Well, I was so happy. That office shut down, of course, after she walked out. And, it was because the guy said, I'm going to pay myself back with this loan from Sendent. And I said, what are we going to, now back then you were buying stamps. I said, what are we going to buy stamps with? We're going to raise money. We're going to make this an investment. We're going to raise money in it for a brokerage firm. I said, I wouldn't invest in this brokerage firm. All right. How will I expect somebody else to do that?
Yeah.
Not good.
That's
No,
tough.
not good at all. Bad situation. Bad situation. But again, why am I there? What am I supposed to be doing? What does this lead to? And it led to me seeing a lot of things and benefiting in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
You reminded me, I see these videos, right? I consume my content on my phone. We all have our phone in our hands.
Sure.
And one of the things that I love is when people tell you, don't be afraid to go to the random networking event.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of meeting new people because, like we've heard, you just meeting, you don't know which person is going to be able to change the trajectory of your life. And for me, and I don't know if you're aware of this, for me, that was Dallas.
Yeah.
He, I wanted to go over with him in 2014, and he told me, "You're not ready.
Okay.
Get your experience."
Ooh,
And
good advice.
yes, and Master Plan's one of those places where really they call you, right? You don't call them, they call you.
Yeah.
And I got my call in 2021.
Excellent.
And I feel terrible. There's the 4 core values, right? There's caring, competence, confidence, and I can never remember the 4th one.
Right.
But Dallas, said, "I feel that you embody all 3." He's like, "I'm worried about confidence." And I told him, I literally am just talking to someone right now, a commissioner on the Arlington board, that I asked if he would help me with my confidence. And Dallas said, "Great, that's all I needed to know and hear." Wow. And he said, "I'll give you a chance." And that literally changed the trajectory of my life.
That's Dallas Cawthron.
It really is.
Yeah.
And so for the listener out there, like, go to the networking event, meet people, connect. Don't worry about selling your business.
Nope.
Just talk to them about where you're going on vacation.
Build
that foundation. And in 3 years, maybe it'll come to fruition. Yeah. Or the other hand, that you're going to need what they have.
That's it.
But building that connection, establishing, it's like someone said, if you have courtship and dating, think of it more as courtship.
Yes.
Yeah. It's over the long term. And I know I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and we're gonna have to wind it down.
Sure.
But a question I thought would be kind of fun to ask you is, if City of Dallas, were a hand of poker right now, what would it be?
Oh, I think they've got definitely a full house.
Oh yeah,
I do. I really do. This has been 46 years. I came from Los Angeles, basically, in seeing business. Anaheim, it was busy, but Orange County, LA, San Diego, these are thriving, big metropolitan areas. I get here, and they roll up the streets at 5 o'clock in 1979 in downtown Dallas.
Well, there was a period they were trying to move things under the ground.
Is that just wild? They still have done it. They still have done it. And this is so much different. And so much, and I was able to bring basically, I thought it was 20 years in the past. And I was able to bring that 20 years forward and say, how about this? Dave Fox, Bryan Place, right smack dab next to downtown. They thought Dave was crazy. And Dave said, they do. They think I'm crazy. But Syntex just bought my 1,325 square foot starter home that you put out in a green field, and I'm done. I said, you're not going to do any more in Bryan Place? He goes, no, this is it. They bought it. They own it. Will they do it? Will they come back? Will they build anything here? And he goes, Tom, I don't think so. And that's when I got the call in 1992 from the guys at Syntex. They said, we heard you help Dave. Get over here. We need to find out what we can do over here. We have 46 parcels of land from a tiny 3,000 square foot up to a couple acres. So liquidated all those in about 5 years. And they were at $6 when they started, $35 when we finished. So Dallas has changed. It's a whole nother place that is ever evolving. You haven't seen a whole lot of old buildings downtown because we tear them down too fast.
Yeah.
And it's a bad thing. It's not a good thing. But we are always changing. Money here never stays still. In San Diego, I went back, looked at the apartments I lived in the 70s. They had painted them. That's it. So the dynamics of Dallas is money is always moving, energy is always moving, and it's for us to get out in front of that and figure out where we can help people with that movement. And that's really where we are today. So I think we're holding a lot of cards. Everybody figured out we're in the middle. Uh-huh. We're in the middle. We're not on the edges. I mean, do you want to ship here to here, or do you want to go here to here and here to? I mean, it's just logic has finally set in that we're in the middle. And that's the best place to be. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I have enjoyed being here at this table with you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your
So
wisdom.
happy to do this.
And I will give information in the show notes on anyone who wants to contact you or
Sure.
check your website out. Your LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn is a treasure trove for information about what's going on in Dallas.
It's fun. I love
estate.
LinkedIn. We can talk about social things. We can talk about business.
Right.
Find out who's got kids, what are you doing. So, it's
we found out we had a mutual love for Handel's ice cream.
There you go. Oh, I can't eat it anymore. But yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. They were asking me to go into University Park in Snyder Plaza because I handle some good pieces in Snyder, and we couldn't get it done. And I said, I just missed this deal, and I knew you were going to give me free ice cream. Yeah.
Thank you again.
Oh, well, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.